Hello there. Welcome back to the React Masterclass by my project areas. And this is going to be the one of the most broad topic of this React Masterclass. So today we are going to study what is context API and what is global state management in the React.js. So I have divided this presentation into two parts. In the first one, I will be showing you like what is a global state management and what is context, and how to use the context API, and we will have a broad idea of what, when, and how to use the context API. And in the next part, I will explain in a practical way like how you can implement it in your project. So let's just see. First of all, why global state management? Why do we need the global state management? So as you are already familiar with the prop drilling concept and the separation of the concerns. So the prop drilling is passing props from one children to another, and that children to another children of that children. So that is called prop drilling. So that we can access some global variables at any level in our project. So this is a very big hurdle to pass props at each level inside the components. So we don't have to pass things as props to the children component 2 or more levels deep. So that's why we will need global state. And because there are certain things like theming, localizations, authorizations, etc., these things can be handled effectively in our application. So now let's just see what is context API and how to use it to achieve the global state management. So the context API was introduced in the React version 16.3, and it is a built-in feature of the React since then. So context API provides us some functions and rules to use the global state management inside the React and make it easy to do so. So it provides us a function named create context, which provides us a context that applies to a set of components. I know you are not understanding it right now, but when we are in the practical, you will understand better. I know it's confusing to bear, but bear with me. Let's see how everything works. So before just directly jumping and implementing into the context API, we need to understand some basic terms, just as what is context. So a context is a frame or window inside which the things are present for you, or you can define a context as a environment. So we provide the components some environments so that they can do transaction with the environments. So for example, just like the natural environment, we all humans, animals, and children and animals offsprings lives, nature doesn't differentiate between us, who is adult, who is child. Everybody can breathe fresh air from the environment. So breathing is a transaction here, and environment is a global context here. So the global values of the functions are terms for the air here and provided to all the components residing in it. So you can consider context as environment provided to all beings or the all components. That is a good terminology to use to understand the context. And first of all, we will create a context step we will define later. Then the context, after the context, we will create a provider. We have to embed all the components that are required global variables inside the provider. And the component outside the provider cannot access the global variables. So this is, we have created a context, and after that context, we have defined a provider. So this is a provider that contains all the components. But the components outside of this context cannot use the global state. Only the components inside the context can use the global state. Okay, so now we have to see in the practical like how context API works across our project. So let's just see. Let me remove the code here, extra code which I have prepared. Okay, fine. So how did you do the things last time with the use state hook? So const any state set state, which will be equal to use state. And inside the use state hook, let me define this anything. Okay. So I have already made a children component here, and now I will use Okay, I will type here parent component. And next is children. So I have already imported this children component here. So no need to worry about that. Okay, now, okay, this is spelling is wrong. So now it's correct. And I want to pass this state prop to this children component. I will say it is prop, name this prop. Okay, name will be fine. And I will pass the state as a name. Okay. And now let's go to this children here. And this children, let me type it here. Uh, yeah, children component. And in this children component, I am having this grandchildren component here. So what I have to do now here, I will pass the name here as, okay, this is children data, but I'm getting the name. So I will pass this prop name, which is coming to children from the app.jsx to its grandchildren. Okay, let's just see the grandchildren. So the grandchildren is also not having this simple thing. Let's type here also. And this grandchildren is getting this name prop here, and it's using here. Okay. Okay, let me just type here the grandchildren text also so that it will be simplified. Yeah, grandchildren component. Now let me just run my application. Okay, it's already running. So that's why I will check. Okay. As you can see, inside this parent component, there is a children component. Inside this children component, there is a grandchildren component. And then it is coming anything. Okay, I should have a line break here. Okay. Then it's coming anything. So I am passing this anything from this parent component to children component and to the grandchildren component. And grandchildren component is making use of the prop. So this is the scenario for prop drilling. So there can be many instances of these grandchildren also, great grandchildren, and up to 100 parent child components. But so it will cause a havoc. It will not be a good idea to use the props like this. So we are requiring a context here. So let me show you how to make a context. Okay. So I just want to use this name directly from context here, not from this app.jsx. So I will remove this one. And okay, I can remove this also right now. In the children, I can remove the props from here too. Okay. Okay. Those are removed. And inside this also, and removing this name here. Now let's just see if it's working fine. Parent component, children component, and grandchildren component. Fine. So this is like that. This is the relationship between these components. So now what we have to do is we have to create a context and we will wrap everything inside the context. Everything. I mean all of these components inside the context. And after that, we will be able to access at any level of component. Like in the grandchildren component, if it is 1,000 grandchildren, then it's the 1,001. Then I can access that variable directly here, not passing it as a prop or not getting it as a prop. So let us see how can we do this. Okay, now let me make a new folder called context. And inside the context, I will say something like global context .jsx. I have made this file. Okay, so now I will create a context here. And how should I do that? So I will import create context from the React, and then I will make it global context, which will be equal to create context. So what can be the parameters inside this? Default value any. So I'm not passing anything here. right now. So what can I do is I will make a component like structure const and be sure to name it global provider. This provider name is what we identify this context as, because this is a provider or this is a wrapper, or I can say it is a wrapper. This will be wrapped across our application so that any children or grandchildren or the greatest grandchildren component can use the context to access values. So inside this, let's pass children, and then okay, then I will return what? Yes, simply that thing which Copilot is suggesting, global context dot provider. And inside that, there will be children. So this children prop is our application or the component, anything that it can be. So for example, like const value set value. Okay, not value. I will say that state set state. This is a variable. It will be use state hook. Okay, so the use state is not imported. That will cause a problem. And now it's good. And inside that, it will be initial value. So this one is simple, right? And now inside this global context dot provider, I will provide a value here. So value will have an object like the structure inside it. And then I will pass state and that state. Um, Try to carefully see here, like we are passing also a value and a function inside the value. Okay. And we will be able to access these two anywhere inside our this wrapper context. Okay, let me make it simpler. Okay, well, that's it. Const values equal to state set state. Okay, and I will pass this values here. Now we are even, and now I can go to the main.jsx. You can wrap this app component inside the main this global wrapper. Um, it is not necessary. You can wrap this div inside the global wrapper also, but I will say because we are using a global context, that's why I will use it here. Import global wrapper. Okay. I think it's correct from, okay, not that path, context global JSX. Okay, fine. Let me check if it's working correctly. Okay, one more thing. We haven't exported this thing, global wrapper, by default. So let us export it. Export default global wrapper. Okay. And also, I want to export this context also. Export const global context. Fine. Now everything is set. Our context is set up. And if I go back to the main.jsx, I will say global wrapper. Okay. Now I am properly getting it. And what I will do is I will wrap this app component inside the global wrapper. Okay, this R will be smaller. And now our app is passed as the children inside this component. And we can check if it is correct. Okay, it's correct. Okay, now let us go to the app. Now go to the children. And now go to grandchildren. I'm showing it to you directly, like how we can access these values. So to use these context values, because we have provided the context to the whole application inside min.jsx, I want to use this inside the grandchildren, which is already inside the app.jsx inside the children, as you understand what I'm saying. So let's just go to the grandchildren, and I will just import global context here. Nothing much, only the global context here. And then I will say, I will import one another hook from the React, import use context. Okay. So we will use this context inside the use context. Const anything which is, or I can say global values, which will be equal to use context. Which context to use? Global context. Okay, fine. So we are using this context. So the values in the global context we are providing is state and set state. So I can destructure those values here directly. State and set state. And now it's fine. Now it's fine. And if I want to have this state value here directly, then that state value, initial value, will appear here. And we can also set the state. Set, okay, not here. Actually, we will require a button. Inside that button, set state. And on click functionality with the, okay. So this is good. New value. So it will set this initial value to the new value in the grandchildren component. And then now let's just run our application, which is already running. And let's go here. So we are inside this grandchildren component. And I can see here the initial value and the set state. Okay, let me provide a break here also. Okay. As you can see, if I click on this, this is the new value. We are using this same function and same value from the context. And not just that only, I can place this whole button functionality into the other component. Like state can be here, but suppose that children, the parent of the grandchildren component is containing a button here. Okay, fine. I can use that function here also. So import global context and then import use context. Okay. And similarly, const destructuring set state, which will be equal to use context. And which one? Absolutely. Global context, which we have created. So the button is here and the status value is here. We can also update now. Now let's just see. So the button is in children component, but the value is in grandchildren component. As you can see, it changed. So this is how we use the context in our application. I'm sure that you are having a hard time in understanding this concept, because this concept is very much important and very much complex. So it may take several iterations to understand it. So just practice and you will understand it completely. So as you've seen that how we create the context and wrap the components like app.jsx inside the providers, we can also make the provider and wrap around the specific components too. And then you can access the global variables or functions. The main usage of context is in this case of implementation of authorization or theming. Also the localization of the web apps or for the languages is also a good example. So thank you very much for bearing till now. And our React course is almost finished. And I hope that you enjoyed this course more. So our approach was making the dots, learn the dots, and then connecting the dots. So I'm very happy to announce that this course is complete, and I will be seeing you in the next project videos.